I hate reading documentations for any programming language or technology, at least for almost every one of them that I've tried out in the past. It has been quite boring reading this. There are a few exceptions, but most documentations are quite boring to read. They say that documentations are written by developers for developers, but what they miss out mostly is the fact that some people who are reading this documentation are just about starting their journey. Therefore, it becomes very difficult for them to comprehend all the jargon. And if you're making it very technical and not breaking it down to the barest minimum, then these people struggle to pick up these languages. That's why most beginners do not find these documentation friendly. In fact, this was me a couple of years ago, and I used to struggle a lot comprehending most of these documentation. And if you're watching this video, I want to believe that you are currently facing this issue of, hey, I struggle to read documentation. A lot of people say read documentation, but I struggle to read it because it's a lot more difficult to read. I would probably watch a video or read something else outside that of the documentation. And I'm here to let you know that you're not alone in this. And almost everyone who started off as a beginner, in fact, everybody started off as a beginner when learning to code. So beginners to who are starting to learn to code usually face this problem. But as you go along your journey, you have to figure a way around it. So in this video, I'm going to share with you 4 truths that I've discovered that you need to know when you start to learn to code. Even if you've been coding for a while, these are things that will really help you. And let's get into it. The first one, which I think that you will not like to hear, if you really resonated with what I said in the beginning, I hate to read documentation. The first truth that I've discovered is that the documentation is the single source of truth for anything you are trying to learn about that particular technology or programming language. So if there is any more thing that you need to know about it, it's probably hidden somewhere in the documentation. What does this mean for you and I? It means whether we like it or not, we still have to make the documentations our friends. So we have to get used to reading documentation. Therefore, the earlier you start embracing it, the better for you. Instead of running away from it and feeling that, oh, this is so difficult, and for that reason, I'm not going to get into any documentation at all. It's high time that we start looking into it in that direction. Let's start looking for some of them, being able to understand them and break down some of it for ourselves, even if it is not done. And thanks to God, now there are a lot of generative AI stuff out there that you can use to explain these technical things. So even if you do not understand it, you can copy the content and post it in any of these generative AI tools and let it explain to you as if you were 5 years old. And yes, so that being said, please make good use of every documentation that you can. It is a single source of truth. The question that I ask myself is that you see people create videos, tutorials, blog posts about various technologies and programming language, but what we do not ask ourselves is that how did this person even get to understand it in the first place? Because the first time that the technology is created, it is created and a documentation is provided. So every third person who is going to create content on it will source their know-how or their knowledge from the documentation. This means that everyone at least started learning from the documentation. There is no one who knows a tool better than the person who developed it, right? But the other thing is that those who keep using it get to understand it better. So those who create content on it are usually the ones who started off with the documentation, try to understand it, and now started practicing it. Over time, they got to understand fully how it works and fell in love with it if they did at all at any point in time and created content to break it down for you. So yes, don't run away from documentation, embrace it and start learning it. The second truth that I've discovered is that no video tutorial out there will cover everything that you need to know about a single programming language or a technology. Yes, I know that there are a lot of great teachers out there who create content on some of these, and I personally aspire to be one of such great teachers. But the truth that I've come to understand is that no amount of work that these teachers put into creating content will they be able to cover everything you need to know about the technology. Even when you attend an official educational institution to learn some of these things, your professors will not be able to teach you everything there is to learn about it. The earlier you understood this, the better for you, so that you start focusing on trying to understand things outside of what was taught in the tutorial. There are some that you will never get to know until you practice what you have learned from the video tutorials or from the documentation that you consumed. Moving on to the third truth that I've discovered. The third truth is that you can't rely on a single source, a single resource to master everything. So there's a lot of things to learn, and this ties directly into using the video tutorials. But some people expect that if I have consumed, if it is a book that I consumed, then that book should give me everything. In fact, I get a lot of people reaching out to me asking, what is the single best resource that I can use to learn this too? And sometimes when you ask me this question, I freeze because I'm wondering, is there really a single best source? I mean, there's thousands of resources out there for a single programming language, right? You can't say that there is a single best source of the single best resource out there for you to learn these things. The truth is that you and I may not appreciate things in the same way. The way we learn may differ. So what may be really good to me may not be that good to you. However, the truth is that irrespective of what material you're using, what resource you're using, relying on just one will not cut it for you. So what the advice I'll give you in this case is that, well, start with one, try and learn and understand everything that is being taught in there, but then practice and keep practicing, because through practicing, you begin to discover things that you didn't know, things that were not covered in that resource. Then you begin to ask questions, be curious about the things that you are not able to do. Don't run away from what you're not able to do. Just be curious and try to figure it out. So by practicing and doing more, asking more questions, being curious about it, and searching, now you begin to delve into other resources that you had not looked into. So you could have started with one, but you end up looking into several resources. So usually when people reach out to me and want to find out how come you understood this concept so well, the reality is that I ended up consuming as many content as possible, but I didn't start off getting into all of these references. I focus on one, try to understand the concept. If it wasn't clear enough, I move on to the next one. The one that explains the concept the way I want is what I stick to. Then I begin to use it. I begin to practice. I ask more questions, look for answers, and now you have generative AI. You can ask these questions to the generative AI, get pointers, references, so that you now go and look into it and get a holistic understanding of the technology. Finally, you need to stay updated on any programming language or technology that you're learning. And that is the last truth that I have discovered. So these programming languages, say, for instance, you're using a library like React.js. You started learning React.js at one point in time, but then in a couple of months, that React.js that you were learning, that version would probably be outdated, or a new version will come up with new changes would have come that you would need to go relearn some of the things and also forget some of the things that you already knew to be able to use it in the right way. And that thing happened to me a lot of times. I think when I started learning Laravel for the first time, that was around Laravel 7, I believe, if I haven't forgotten. And as soon as I started learning Laravel 7, like not too long into it, Laravel 8 was introduced. And now a lot of the things that I knew in Laravel 7 didn't make sense in Laravel 8. Like I had to relearn some of the things. And I haven't done Laravel in a long while now. Now there is Laravel 10. So if I want to go back to it, I have to go relearn most of the things that I knew about it. But one of the ways to keep up with these changes is to subscribe to some relevant newsletters or join some of the forums where these things are being discussed, so that you are in the know. Anytime something new comes up, you are aware that this is changing. For instance, I have been following keenly on Next.js. And when I started learning Next.js, that was when we're transitioning from Next.js 12 to Next.js 13. Currently, we are doing Next.js 14, and breaking changes have come all through these changes. and therefore I need to go sit down and learn. But the most important thing is for me to be aware in the first place that the changes have occurred, so that I know as and when I want to use it, I have to learn the new stuff. So do all to subscribe to newsletters, join forums, and be engaged in the community so that you know exactly what is happening. These are 4 main truths that I have discovered in my journey, and I know that they're going to help you. If you enjoyed the video, give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and also if you have any question, go ahead and leave it in a comment. I want to hear from you. Which other truths have you discovered that you think will be helpful for any one of us who is also learning to code? Go ahead and drop it in the comment section, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.